What if I told you there's a mansion in England that took 30 years to build, nearly bankrupted one of the richest families in Britain, and still stands today as one of the most magnificent palaces you've never heard of? Welcome to Holkham Hall, built in 1764. This isn't your typical English country house. This is a Palladian masterpiece so ambitious, so outrageously extravagant, that 3 different architects worked on it, and the man who commissioned it never lived to see it finished. But here's the crazy part. It was all intentional. Every marble column, every gilded ceiling, every perfectly symmetrical room was designed to do one thing: make you feel insignificant. And trust me, it works. Kings have walked these halls. Political revolutions were plotted in these rooms. Fortunes changed hands at dinner parties that lasted for days. Today, I'm taking you inside Holkham Hall to uncover the obsession, the genius, and the absolute madness behind one man's architectural dream. Let me introduce you to Thomas Coke, the first Earl of Leicester. This guy wasn't just rich, he was visionary rich. At 15 years old, he left England for what they called the Grand Tour, basically a gap year for aristocrats. Except his lasted 6 years. But Thomas wasn't partying across Europe. He was obsessed. In Italy, he studied every Renaissance building he could find. He bought paintings directly from artist studios. He sketched, he measured, he took notes like his life depended on it. By the time he came back to England in 1718, he had a collection of art worth a fortune and an idea that would consume the rest of his life: build a palace that would make Italy jealous. He hired William Kent, the most famous architect of the era, and together they designed something unprecedented. Construction started in 1734. Thomas Coke died in 1759. The mansion was completed in 1764. He spent 25 years building his dream and never spent a single night in it. Okay, let's talk about what makes Holkham Hall absolutely stunning. From the outside, it looks almost understated, classic, Palladian style with yellow brick that glows golden in certain light. It's symmetrical to an obsessive degree. There's a central block with 4 corner pavilions, and everything is mathematically perfect. But then you step inside, and your jaw hits the floor. The marble hall is 50 feet high with columns made of alabaster from Derbyshire that look like they're carved from honey. The ceiling is based on the Roman Pantheon. There's a staircase that looks like it belongs in a Venetian palace, not rural Norfolk. Every state room is more elaborate than the last. Walls covered in crimson velvet from Genoa. Ceilings hand-painted by William Kent himself. Fireplaces carved from single blocks of marble. The rooms flow into each other, creating these impossible sightlines where you can see through 6 rooms at once. This wasn't just architecture, this was a statement. That British design could rival anything in continental Europe. Now, here's where Holkham goes from impressive to absolutely mind-blowing. Remember those 6 years Thomas Coke spent in Italy? He wasn't just sightseeing, he was shopping. And I mean serious shopping. We're talking original Rubens paintings, Van Dyck portraits, works by Poussin and Claude Lorraine. These aren't reproductions hanging in some provincial house. These are masterpieces that museums would literally kill for. And they're still hanging in Holkham's private rooms today. The statue gallery is filled with Roman sculptures and Greek antiquities that Coke personally selected and shipped back to England. But my favorite part? The library. 8,000 volumes including illuminated medieval manuscripts and first editions that scholars travel across the world just to see. Thomas Coke wasn't collecting for Instagram. He genuinely believed that surrounding yourself with great art and literature made you a better person. He was building more than a house. He was building an education. Every painting, every sculpture, every book was chosen to inspire, to teach, to elevate whoever walked through these doors. Here's something most people don't know about Holkham. The estate surrounding the mansion literally changed agriculture forever. Thomas Coke's grandson, confusingly also named Thomas Coke, but nicknamed Coke of Norfolk, inherited the estate and became obsessed with farming. While his grandfather built beautiful buildings, he built a farming revolution. This guy pioneered crop rotation, invented new breeding techniques for sheep and cattle, and developed soil management systems that increased crop yields by insane amounts. He held these annual events called sheep shearings, where farmers from across Europe would come to learn his techniques. These were basically agricultural conferences. 200 years before TED Talks existed, the 25,000-acre estate became a living laboratory. The parkland was designed by Capability Brown to look naturally perfect, which actually meant moving entire hills and planting thousands of trees. There's even a private beach that stretches for miles. Holkham proved that land wasn't just about looking pretty. It was about innovation, sustainability, and feeding nations. Let's be real. Holkham Hall wasn't built for family dinners. It was built for power. The staterooms could host hundreds of guests at once. And trust me, they did regularly. Getting an invitation to Holkham meant you'd arrived in British high society. This is where political alliances were formed, where marriages between powerful families were arranged, where business deals worth millions were sealed over port and cigars. The Koch family understood something crucial: architecture equals influence. Think about it. The approach to Holkham is deliberately overwhelming. You pass through imposing lodge gates, drive down a mile-long road, and then suddenly the south facade appears and you realize how small you are. Guest bedrooms were assigned based on your social status. Seating at dinner communicated exactly where you stood in the hierarchy. Even conversations were staged: the library for intellectual discussions, the drawing room for lighter social chat, the gallery for discreet political negotiations. For 2 centuries, Holkham operated as an unofficial court where agricultural wealth translated directly into national political power. History wasn't just witnessed here, it was made. Now let's talk about what this actually cost, because it's insane. Building Holkham Hall nearly destroyed the Koch family financially, not once, but twice. The original budget was ambitious. The final cost? Absolutely catastrophic. Thomas Koch poured his entire fortune into construction and died 5 years before it was finished, leaving his widow and heir with an impossible choice: abandon the project and waste everything already spent, or keep building and risk total bankruptcy. They chose to finish it. Construction lasted 30 years, which meant styles changed, architects died or quit, and costs just kept spiraling out of control. Marble was imported from Italy, alabaster from Derbyshire, master craftsmen from across Europe. Nothing was mass-produced. Everything was custom, hand-carved, individually approved. There were zero shortcuts in Palladian perfection. Even after completion, maintaining Holkham was brutally expensive. They needed over 100 staff just to keep the fires burning. The silver polished, the gardens maintained. The family sold land, took out massive loans, deferred other improvements. Yet somehow, through 2 world wars, economic depressions, and complete social upheaval, they held on. So what happens to a place like Holkham in the 21st century? Here's the fascinating part. It's still owned by the Koch family. The 8th Earl of Leicester lives there right now, and he's managing something incredibly complex. It's simultaneously a family home, a major tourist attraction, a working farm, and a protected conservation area. Over 100,000 people tour the staterooms every year, and their ticket money directly funds ongoing restoration, work that literally never ends. The beach and parkland attract hundreds of thousands more visitors, most of whom don't even realize they're on a privately owned estate. The current Earl has pioneered what's called sustainable heritage tourism, proving you can generate income from a historic property without destroying what makes it special. Recent restoration projects keep uncovering original paint colors, hidden architectural details, and design elements that haven't been seen in centuries. The family still lives in the private apartments, still manages the farms, still makes every decision about Holkham's future. It's incredibly rare in modern Britain, a truly historic house that's still an actual lived-in home. Here's why Holkham matters beyond just being beautiful. It changed architecture across the entire world. The Palladian principles it championed became the blueprint for British country houses. For the next century, government buildings adopted the style. When the British Empire expanded, Palladian architecture traveled with it to India, Australia, the Caribbean. When Americans designed their new capital after the Revolution, guess what style they chose? You can see Holkham's DNA in Washington, D.C.'s federal buildings. The agricultural innovations pioneered on the estate revolutionized farming across Europe, helping feed exploding populations during the Industrial Revolution. The art collection established what culture meant for generations of British aristocrats. Even today, Holkham appears constantly in films and TV shows. If you've watched a period drama set in a grand English house in the last 20 years, there's a good chance you've seen Holkham. The Duchess, Pride and Prejudice adaptations, countless documentaries. Its visual perfection makes it irresistible to filmmakers. Holkham didn't just reflect its era, it defined taste for centuries to come. So what's the real story of Holkham Hall? It's about obsession turned into legacy. Thomas Coke spent 25 years building something he'd never live in, bankrupted his family in the process, and created something that has now survived 260 years. It's about how one man's grand tour as a teenager shaped British architecture for generations. It's about how agricultural innovation in Norfolk fields helped feed nations during industrialization. It's about political power, exercised through dinner, parties, and carefully designed rooms. But mostly, it's about the audacity to believe that beauty matters, that excellence is worth pursuing even at devastating cost, that architecture can be more than shelter, it can be philosophy built in stone. Today, as you walk through those 50-foot-high halls, past priceless paintings and Roman sculptures, across perfectly proportioned rooms that took decades to perfect, you're not just seeing a building, you're seeing proof that human ambition, when combined with artistic vision and stubborn determination, can create something that transcends time. Holkham Hall stands as a reminder that some dreams are worth bankrupting yourself for. Thanks for watching.